Good evening. Okay, thanks. I'm Joe Paslako. I'm the high school principal here at Shepherd. We wanted to wait a couple minutes after 7, so usually I'm pretty prompt, but want to make sure with everything going on, parent-teacher conferences here in the middle school, we want to make sure that people, have the amount of time to get in here. We thank you guys for coming out, taking your time this evening to kind of go over a quick overview of high school life and then the transition into, Shepherd High School. Even though we're attached by the hallways, it's still a big transition that we've got to make sure, we at least share some of that information with you. Some of the details may not be put out there tonight, but we're definitely planning on leaving some time at the end for some question and answer. So, please, we're going to go through a PowerPoint, have some time to chat with you guys, share some insight. Then at the end, definitely leave some time for question and answers. Who's with us tonight? Well, you got myself. Like I said, I introduced myself, Mr. Paslako. Ms. G, Ms. Gauthier, our assistant principal, just came in running, so I won't ask her to come up. Just out of breath. But I'm going to be turning it over to the expert, the individual who's been working in our counseling department longer than I've ever been around here, well over double-digit years, Mr. Brian Ross, who will take us through, the PowerPoint, but then we will definitely stop at some crucial points, for some conversation. So give it up to Mr. Ross.
As Mr. Paslako already said, he introduced you to the staff that you 8th graders now, to be freshmen, you will see us on a daily basis. You'll see us in the hallways. Come see us. Our goal is to help you be successful. So don't be afraid to come talk to the principal, assistant principal, the council. In high school, in order to get a high school diploma, there are certain things you have to get. You have to earn credit by passing the classes. And any high school you go to in the state of Michigan basically requires the same set of standards. It's called the Michigan Merit Curriculum. And as you can see in the slide behind me, it's listed there. Now, back when I was in high school, it was quite different. And I'm guessing for a lot of parents it was too. But now you have to get through 4 credits of math. 4 credits of English was kind of standard even back then. You have to get through either chemistry or physics. You have to get through a minimum of Algebra 2 and another credit beyond that in some capacity. You have to have 2 credits of foreign language. Any 8th graders here have older brothers or sisters? Show of hands. A few of you. Your older brother or sister may have gotten out of that 2nd credit of foreign language by doing something that exempted them, like taking a career technical education course or an extra fine or applied arts course. That doesn't apply to you guys. You are the first group that there is no exception for that. You're expected to have 2 years of foreign language. And the good news is you have an experience in the 8th grade year. So you got 1 down. You also have to have an approved senior portfolio to graduate from Shepherd High School. That's a little different than other schools. One of the common questions I get is, well, how many hours do you require of community service? The answer is 0. That's not one of our graduation requirements. However, I do strongly recommend you consider that because scholarships will look at that as one of the criteria. In the very near future, we'll be scheduling students for next year. I know it seems early. Some schools are already halfway through their process. It's going to be a little different than in years past. In years past, we would meet with the 8th graders. We'd have a piece of paper they would fill out. We'd make some copies or whatever. They could take them home or share it with their parents. And we would register them. Well, now we have a system online through Career Cruising where you can go online and choose your courses. Parents, you can access what your students are choosing online if you have internet access, or we could print one out if you need it. And eventually there will come a date in a few weeks. We'll say, hey, it's time to finalize it. Please make sure you made your final adjustments and so forth. And we will pull that information from the electronic site and into PowerSchool, our data system, and that will be the registration for the students. So it's a little different than in the past. You, as parents, I'd encourage you to ask to see your students' EDPs. And I will show you how to access it very quickly online, and your students should know how to do that as well. English at Shepherd High School is pretty simple. We have English 9, 10, 11, and 12. However, Your senior year, you could choose to take a college course. That's what we call dual enrollment. And that college course would count towards a college credit and would also satisfy the high school content requirements for English. That's an option for you. You do not have to do that, but some will choose to do so. Science. The 9th graders at Shepherd High School will begin with physical science. Their sophomore year will go on to biology, and their junior year, chemistry. Now, some will have the option, if they choose, to go on and further their science education by taking physics or an advanced biology course. If the student is choosing to try to continue in college courses, there are some classes set up between Sacred Heart and Shepherd that's up in Mount Pleasant, and they can get college credit for biology and chemistry, which is another option. Social studies is fairly straightforward. World studies is 9th graders. It's a little bit geography and a little bit of history. We have a great teacher there who's very interactive. The 9th graders will love him. Okay? Mr. Hallowell. Any of you know Mr. Hallowell? Well, you will get to know him. He is excellent. U.S. history as sophomores. Econ and civics as juniors. And again, if you choose not to do civics as high school, you could choose to take it as a college course taught right here at Shepherd High School by a Shepherd High School teacher who's an adjunct professor and get college credit for it. So that's something to consider down the road. Math is always the tricky one. You students who are in 8th grade right now, you're on one of two options. You're either taking the 8th grade math course, or some of you are taking the algebra class in 8th grade. You will get a high school credit for that if you successfully complete the course. If you successfully complete the course. If you do successfully complete it, you would take the track that's on the right and you would have geometry as a 9th grader. Other students, when they come up into high school, will take Algebra 1. Now that's spread out over 3 trimesters. We're not the only school to do that. Mount Pleasant High School has done that as well, and they've had a lot of success by taking that same content and just slowing it down a little bit. Math tends to be a little bit of a challenge for students, but it's a very important subject area. Matter of fact, when you go on to take your college entrance test, the SAT, half of it is on math. And you can see the breakdown there, and we have a new strategy at the high school. This will be the first time it's implemented. Our students could potentially get through Calculus 3 if they wanted to. A lot of you are going, what? Not me. That's okay, but the option exists. Those that are taking geometry as 9th graders and Algebra 2 as sophomores, as juniors they can dual enroll in pre-calc in the fall. They could dual enroll in Calc 1 in the spring. Those courses will be taught here at Shepherd High School by a professor in one of our classrooms. And you will have support to get you through that. And that's a pretty neat thing. Some of the parents here maybe went off to college and took a calc class in college, and you probably sat in a big auditorium like this with 200 people. Okay? So it's a nice luxury for our students to have that option. Middle school's on trimesters. High school's on trimesters. But they're not exactly the same thing. In middle school, trimesters basically means you end your marking period 3 different stages throughout the year. But how many classes, 8th graders, do you have in a day? 6. In high school, you will have 5 classes. Each of those classes will last about 73, 74 minutes, give or take. Mount Pleasant High School, Ithaca High School are also on trimester schedules like us. Alma's considering it. So we're not the only school to do this format. It's actually quite popular. You get 2.5 credits each trimester. In the course of a year, students can earn 7.5 credits. 8th graders, get ready. If you go 4 years of high school and you can earn 7.5 credits a year, how many could you earn? I heard some right answers. 30. Okay? In order to graduate, I see a parent saying, hey, wake up. In order to graduate, you need 27.5 in order to get a diploma. Okay? So it's important that you successfully pass these classes. I mentioned earlier about career cruising. The web address is up here, but I've created a website. On this website, it's got a lot of valuable information, and it's a one-stop shop. I have a blog, I have stuff for parents, resources for you in dealing with your student, all types of academic information, scholarship information, and links to about anything you can imagine. One of the links under parent-student resources is the careercruising.com. It will take you to a website, and to get into it, the username is Shepherd, password is BlueJay. That is the EDP, or what we call an Educational Development Plan. Students are encouraged to think, what classes do you want to take and when, so you can see how they lay themselves out over 4 years. Now, next year's classes are the most important, and Mrs. Wright has been meeting with you guys, hasn't she? Talking to you about these things. Well, I would encourage you students to show your parents at home. Go home, get on the internet, and show them what you're looking at. You can make changes on this for the next 2-3 weeks. And eventually, I will say, hey, it's time to lock these classes in, and whatever you have in that site, we'll pull up, and that'll be your registration. Now, here's things to think about. We build a master schedule, and we base it on the number of students who sign up for each course. Now, if 70 students sign up for a class, we can offer 2 sections, but there's 15 or so kids who won't be able to get into it. So, based on that number, we only offer X number of classes. If you change your mind a lot, it affects other students' opportunities. So please, take time now to consider what you're going to do. The website that I've created is on the bottom of that sheet that's available. If you did not get one, there's still some extras over there. I encourage you parents to get on that website. I'll have an access link to the career guide, or the curriculum guide as well, that'll lay out all the courses Shepherd High School offers, when you can take them, and a description of what the course is like. onwardshepherd.weebly.com. When you're scheduling students, you need to think about some things. I've heard this over the years of, boy, I just want to have an easy senior year. Or, I'm in sports and I don't want to have a lot of tough classes then. Those days really are gone. It's just not an option. Realistically, you need to take classes in the mindset of, what do I want to accomplish down the road? And I need to prepare myself by learning. Not through jumping through hoops or taking this class because I have to, but learning. And hopefully you have an interest in doing that. You want to learn more about science and social sciences. And down the road, you'll have a lot more options in your life available to you. This is kind of congested. It's on that little handout, and I know it's not a great copy value. I get that. It shows you 2 different scheduling options. One of them is for those who are taking Algebra 1 in the 9th grade. The other one is those who are taking geometry in the 9th grade. And notice I've listed elective A, B, C, D, E, and so on. The classes that are on the right-hand side in the white, those are the elective classes that 9th graders can take. Now, health and PE has always been a standard 9th grade class at Shepherd. You have to really think about that now. Do we have any band or chorus students in here? Quite a few of you. That's great. We have an awesome program in band and chorus. We're very good at it here at Shepherd. We want you to take that class. However, think about this. You have to have 2 credits of Spanish, right? You have a year, you've been introduced to it as an 8th grader. You probably don't want to wait a whole year and then get back into it.
Thank you.
Most of it. So a lot of you will choose to take it as a 9th grader. Well, band takes up 1.5 credits, 3 slots. Spanish 2 takes up 2 slots. Doesn't leave enough room for health and PE. So that means you might want to take health as a sophomore. That's fine. You might choose to take PE as a sophomore, or If you're in band, maybe you count marching band as your PE exemption. You can do that. Did you catch that? If you're in marching band, by state law, you can count that as your PE experience. And if that's in your best interest, that's great. Okay. Any questions on the scheduling part? That's probably one a lot of people are most anxious about. Okay, I've talked to you a little bit about the curriculum guide. We will have that online. You can either go to the Shepherd High School webpage, or you can visit the webpage that I've created, and we'll have links to it. It's pretty lengthy. It's about 62 pages, but it has all the information you need in it. And it's got descriptions of the courses that you're looking at. Mr. Pastelacqua, our principal, is going to come up. He's going to tell you a little bit about how you get grades in classes and how it might be a little different than the middle school.
Well, again, good evening. We may view things a little bit different here at the high school in terms of homework. A lot of times, it's not always going to be coming in as a graded assignment. We got to think of homework just like athletic practice. You know, you're not going to play in the games on Friday or Saturday if you're not going to practice. Well, we're kind of thinking the same thing, because a lot of times the best athlete's the one put on the field, or the better athlete, or the one that's training harder. Same thing. We're trying to get you guys to realize that, you know, the homework is for you to practice, not for always to come in and give you a grade and say, yep, you're getting an A, you're doing awesome. Sometimes we do collect it, we go over, we score it, but a lot of times it's for you to practice, come in, and then we will maybe look at things depending on the day and the class. I mean, I can't give you every scenario of every class, but so that we can make sure that you're on track, so that we can formally assess where you're at, and then maybe find the strengths or weaknesses, and then if we can nail down those weaknesses, how we then could help you prepare for that big game, that big assessment moving on forward. Okay? So we want to make sure that parents, you know, you may be saying, well, I'm looking at my son's daughter's public school, he's doing all his homework and it's not in the grade book. You know, that may be the rationale and the rhyme or reason when at the beginning of the year you start getting all the staff syllabus, you know, their course outline. It's going to lay out, you know, their expectations for you. So please don't think every night, you know, that the student's got 400 problems of homework. We're not looking to bury them, but maybe it's a smaller chunk that they should go home and really focus in on this area to try to improve, come back, and then it's a chance for us to have some good dialogue to see what we can do to help you and the individual student. So I don't want to say, and students don't read into this to say, I heard Mr. P said none of these count, so I'm not going to do it. I didn't say that. But just be prepared that not every time it's going to be stuck to a grade. Okay, so it's going to be something, an expectation of you, and then also as the parent, to help us out. Because the way, since I've come on board as Shepherd, I always say we're a triangle. 3 entities got to help that student be successful. You know, one of them is the student. Second one's the school, the teachers, administration, what we can do. The third one's got to be the home environment, the parents, the guardians, the grandparents, whoever it may be. And when the 3 of us align, it's usually a very powerful combination. So we would just ask that you guys help us out. We're not asking you to go back and learn Algebra 2 and understand what an asymptote is, or, you know, to find the mean or median. But the fact that you're involved, ask questions, communicate with the staff, email, just to be that extra little bit of support that the student may need. Sometimes they'll say, no, Mom, Dad, I'm good. I have a son that'll be a freshman next year in this class of 2020. So I know what he tries to pull in my eyes. Dad, I'm good, I'm good. Well, let's see it. So sometimes I hound him a little bit more, but I think that's my job as a parent, not just because I'm a principal. So we ask, you know, maybe just a little bit out of you. And now, someone who is in the community, who is a parent of students of Shepherd, my students, unfortunately, are in Midland, but that doesn't mean I think any less of Shepherd. Ms. G has students that go here and understand some of the struggles that we talk about and some of the assistance that we're going to be begging out of you. So Ms. G is going to give a little bit of her insight.
Hello. So a couple of hints as a parent and as the assistant principal, I would like to tell you, I've been here for 4 years, but some things that just kind of blew me away as a parent and as a mom. High school students, when you come in here, all of a sudden your tests are like 60 or 80% of your grade. Wow. Can you imagine that? I mean, are your tests worth that right now? No, they're not. And so when he says, well, homework may not count, but it is your practice, right? It's your practice. And so you get to practice for that big game, that test. And so it's really important that you practice. And so, you need to understand that you got to study for the test. So if you're not studying now, between now and June, let's practice studying, okay, for the test. Because when you come to high school, it depends on the teacher, so you're going to want to read the syllabus when you get them the first day of school, and you're going to want to study for those tests, okay? And parents, I know I'm guilty. I've just signed the syllabus 100 times. Just signed it, let my kid take it back to the teacher. But I do have the luxury of being right here in this building, and I can walk down the hallway. And I know not every parent can do that, right? Because you guys are busy, you're at work, And so you're going to want to take the time to read the syllabus. And you're going to want to know if it's 60 or 80% of the grade, because your students are going to need to study, and they're going to need to do the practice. And the other thing is, if you don't know how to log on to PowerSchool, you're going to want to know how to log on to PowerSchool, because you're going to have to know, did they do the practice? Have they taken the test? Can they redo a test? Can they, what are the rules? Because the rules kind of change when they come to high school. So as a parent, as the assistant principal, I just want to encourage you to make sure that you can log on to PowerSchool. Do you know about the practice, and what are the tests worth? Because it really does change, okay? And so that's just some words of wisdom. The other thing is, ask your kids about Moodle. I don't know how often they use Moodle in the middle school, but in the high school, I actually call it the Moodle, like it's a thing. The kids kind of make fun of me, but they use it every day here at the high school, and that's another just little tip for you. And they use it as homework and as testing. So, Mr. Ross.
All right, 8th graders, get your math brains out. Yeah, uh-oh. All right, you choose not to do an assignment, you get a 0. Okay? You turn around the next time, you're going to do better, you're going to show mom and dad I can fix things, you get 100%. What's that average? 50%. What's that as a grade? An E. You get a 0, you get 100%, perfect score. Those two average out to a 50% E. You do an assignment, you fail it, but you get 50%. You rebound, you tell your mom and dad, I'm going to study my butt off, and I get 100%. What's that average?
75.
75 a C. What is the message to that? You cannot ever not turn in an assignment. Even if you get partial credit, it is so important you do not take a 0. Mathematically, it puts you in such a hole it's hard to get out of. Okay. Anybody here want to be top 10 academically? One of the top 10 academic students in your graduating class. Maybe at this point that might not seem as important to you, but down the road, that gets very competitive. A lot of scholarships are based on that. The way we do this is actually what almost all the schools in the area do now. And I want to take some pride in this, that we were one of the first schools to do it. We use 2 factors. It's not just GPA. It's GPA is half of it. The SAT is the other half, okay? Which is a college entrance test. The two together average, and they give you a score. And then when we compare those rankings out of 2,000 points, you find out where you rank. More and more colleges do not look at GPA. Because the bottom line is a lot of schools have grade inflation. A lot of times students take certain courses to protect their GPA rather than taking the challenging ones. And by the way, when I fill out hundreds of forms for students going off to college, you know what they ask me? It's not their GPA, it's did they take the most demanding courses at your school? That's what they want to know. They want to know if you're learning and challenging yourself, not taking easier courses to protect the GPA. The calculation, by the way, is an SAT. An SAT score now is 1,600 points. To get that formula, you're just multiplying it by 0.625. So if you got a perfect SAT score, you'd end up with 1,000 points out of 2,000. If you get a 4.0 on your GPA, that's a big factor. You get 1,000 points out of 2,000. Freshman and sophomore year, things to think about as you head out next year. It goes fast. Your parents can probably tell you that. You need to establish a strong base right off the start of the school year. A lot of you will be in sports, you'll be in band, and things are going fast for you. You got to work hard at getting your grades up, staying up on your homework, and getting study skills down. Mrs. Gauthier talked about that. Practice now. How do you study? How do you organize things? You will be taking the PSAT 9. That's a practice SAT test. You will take that in April of your 9th grade year. The nice thing about that, it gives you insight on where your strengths are and where areas you can improve. And then you can study and prepare and take courses to help you get better each year. So you have multiple times to prepare for the bigger tests that are your junior year. And by the way, don't panic about the tests. It's not all tests. We get that. And you have more than one shot at taking it. You can take it multiple times. Okay? You'll have a 4-year EDP you'll keep updating. That's your electronic through Pure Cruising. And I encourage you, get involved in extracurricular activities. In my master's program, I had to do a Plan B paper. I did it on students at Shepherd High School and the correlation between academic success and involvement in some sort of extracurricular activity. Guess who had the better grades in school? Those that were involved in band, drama, sports. They did a lot better academically. So I encourage you to do that. And volunteer in some format. What's a great opportunity, 8th graders, to volunteer? Maple Syrup Festival? It's a great opportunity. If you're in 4-H, you got a church program, get involved in those things. Those things will pay dividends when you get to be a senior and you want to get scholarship money. Your sophomore year is an awful lot like your freshman year. You'll just have a little bit more elective opportunities each year of high school. You will also have an opportunity to start doing what's called dual enrollment. Taking college classes while you're in high school for both high school and college credit. If you are interested in that program and you want more information now, even though it's maybe a year and a half away, we're going to have a meeting on February 16th, at 5:30 p.m. Most of the students will be sophomores or higher. You legally, by the law, could take a dual enrollment class as a 9th grader. We've had a couple, and they've been successful. But you have to qualify based on your performance academically. You have to show that you're ready to do a college course. Okay? Things that we look at for the dual enrollment is your NWEA. Students, do you remember taking that? A lot of the parents probably got some feedback on that. That's some of the things we look at to see if you're ready to take a college course. The PSAT and especially your reading ability. Reading is very, very important. And not just reading like just reading a novel, which is great, but reading critically. What is the author trying to say when he writes this or she writes this? Think critically about things. Anybody here want to be a college athlete someday? Handful of you. It's very hard to do. It's a great goal. Understand, in order to be eligible to participate in college athletics, you have to have a high enough GPA in only your core classes. They don't even look at your elective courses. They look at your core classes, math, English, science, social studies, foreign language. And you have to have a high enough GPA and you have to have a high enough SAT score, or you cannot participate in college athletics. If you're interested, you might want to meet with me sometime early, and we can plan out your career to make sure you're getting the classes you need. Shepherd's been very blessed with some really good college athletes who have gone on to get scholarships at big-time schools like Michigan State, Central. That's pretty cool. And I bet there's probably a couple in the audience now that will have that opportunity. Ms. Gauthier already mentioned a little bit about this. Did you want to mention more?
I want to talk a little bit about the ninth grade team.
Okay. Ms. Gauthier is going to come back up. She's got some more information that's pretty valuable.
You will see next year that your ninth graders will have on their schedule a ninth grade team. I will be their teacher, but they won't really have a class. We created a ninth grade team for all ninth graders this year, and I want you to know we saw a huge amount of success. In the past, we have had several ninth graders fail classes. We had 57 ninth graders fail classes in their first trimester. This year, we went down to 11 ninth graders who failed classes because of our ninth grade team. I feel that, and we're going to do the same thing with your group. Our ninth grade team is compiled of only ninth grade core teachers. We put in place an organization system for ninth graders. We have them follow a certain procedure, rules. We meet about them. We talk about how they're doing, their success and failures, things they're struggling with. We caseload them, which means each teacher gets a group of students that they monitor. They are the ones who call you if they're struggling. We invite you to conferences. So you will see that on their Power School, say ninth grade team, and Carrie Gauthier will be their teacher, but they don't get a grade, they don't get attendance. But it means that this group of teachers is monitoring your students. We are looking out for them. We are, making sure that things are getting done for them, that they have a binder, they have a pencil, that they have their book, that, they're not falling through the cracks, not one student. And it really has been successful this year with the group of ninth graders. And we're going to do the same thing with your kids next year, and hopefully it's even better. So know that that's going to be in place next year. So when you see it on Power School, right when school starts, oh, why does my kid have this class? They don't. But I want you to know ahead of time. And it is great. And we're also going to do a meeting in the summer, and we want to encourage your students to come so they can find their locker and become a class of 2020. And so again, please, and really start to encourage your students to start picking up some of those skills that they're going to need for next year. Organization, time management, studying, checking Power School now, all those types of things that they're going to need for high school. Okay?
Eighth graders, stand up. You are why we're here. So you have the opportunity to ask the first questions. And we expect some questions. What are you excited about? What are you nervous about? What don't you know? Give me a question. Oh, I'm coming back to you. Don't think you're off the hook. Yes.
Thank you for the show.
I really appreciate your honesty. He said he's concerned about passing classes, and that's a good thing. That means you care about your education, number one. Here's something to think about. In our high school, even though a lot of the scores, your grades come from your tests, we offer retakes. It's a matter of just show us that you've learned it. You might not got it the first time, you might not got it the second time. Show us you've learned it. So what that means for you is you might have to go in early to class maybe a couple times a week, meet with the teacher. Help me on this. Here's another suggestion. Get a person in your class that you might know a little bit and study with them. Say, how did you do this problem? Don't just copy it, but how did you do it? And come see me. That'll help. There's different things we can do to get you assistance. We can get an upperclassman to work with you. They like doing that and so forth. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Back to you. Oh, that's a great question. What can you do during your lunch? You have eat, yes. You have freedom. With freedom comes, yeah, you've been taught that. Your parents did a great job. You can go uptown. It's not necessarily encouraged, but you have that option. Make good decisions. Who you hang out with. What do you eat? As you walk uptown, you know what you're probably going to eat?
Junk.
Probably things not quite as nutritious as you could eat. Okay? We have a wonderful cafeteria here. A lot of times people go down there, they sit with each other, they talk, socialize, and eat broccoli and milk and that good stuff. So you have options. You can even sit in our hallways and eat. Sometimes students do some homework while they're eating and sitting with their friends. That's not a bad thing either. Good. A couple other questions quickly. 8th graders, this is your chance. Crush your parents with a great question. Yes, ma'am.
What do you do during homecoming week?
I'll let you answer. That's a good one. Homecoming is fun.
Well, you still go to school, I hope. One of the things we brought into place this year is we kicked off our homecoming with the female powder puff game. And that was done on a Sunday night. It actually was a pretty big hit. The girls loved it. The boys loved being the coaches. So, that's one thing. The other things, you're going to get involved with float building, hopefully. Decorating your halls. Spirit t-shirts. And we have competitions throughout the whole week of dress-up days. We get into the mock Olympics where, we have groups of kids, grades, against even a team of teachers and administrators. We get involved. So if we're playing dodgeball and you're on the other team, you might be going up against some of the teacher teams. So, no, but there's a lot of activities. You got the big game, the parade, the dance, But one of the things we're going to be begging of you guys, we want you to make sure that you're taking care of your academics first as well. If you're getting and struggling with the grades, what Ms. G talked about with the 9th grade team, we are going to do everything we can to be that safety net to help you. But again, one of the things I always say and preach, we can't work harder than you. The staff is going to work very hard. Sometimes it's going to be to the point where you think we're bothering you, bugging you, harassing you, but that's our job. We want to make sure that you're being successful. Make sure you're learning the material so that you can go on to some of those college athletics, dual enrollment classes. That's our job. We want to make sure. So those are some of the fun things, but you'll still be going to school Monday through Friday during homecoming. Good question. Any others?
Okay, 8th graders, we're looking forward to it. Don't forget this summer we'll have another opportunity where you get free hot dogs. So you'll come in, we'll have a good time, and we'll have an orientation. Have a seat. Good questions. Parents, any questions you have? We'll also be available if you want to ask a question in private or something you're inquiring. We'll be around. You can ask either Ms. Gauthier, Mr. Kostelak, or myself. Or shoot us an email, call the school. We'll do our best. That's one thing we will promise. We will do our best because the success of your son or daughter is also our success. It's directly related. We want them to do well. Okay? We thank you for coming. Make sure you grab one of those handouts. That web address is important. Please visit that site. And Shepherd's a great community, and it starts with the families. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks for coming.